All right, now we're joined by the sports editor at the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon, joining us. Sam, we're going to go for clicks real quick.
Okay.
So, only 27,000 fans. Reasons why you think the spring games have started to reduce like they are in terms of attendance now in college football?
I think at Nebraska, it's a couple of different things. One, it is the sign of the times. I think you're going to see fewer and fewer people go to those, probably because there's other things to do, and there's just other things that you can do. And I think some of these scrimmages have changed. It's not really a game anymore, but it's something else. I think with Nebraska, I really do think the basketball run affected it. You know, people are dialed in and locked in to that experience. And so I think people were just really invested in that. And sometimes you don't get around to the football game. And then I think the other thing was that it was an early start and in two different ways. One, it was a morning start, and two, it was in late March. And so I think if they did it next year in mid-April and Nebraska basketball didn't have as good of a season, I think you'd see it back in the 40 or 50 mark.
Sam, we just spent some time talking about the running back room, the only position group that didn't add a transfer from the portal. You see the guys of production last year, you see Rule. Just kind of thoughts now with that decision and how that portrays now into the fall.
It paid off. Yeah. I think the position coach, E.J. Barthel, bet on his guys. And those included Jamal Rule, obviously. You know, he's a freshman, but I think they knew what they had in him. And so they felt good about him coming in. But I also think they bet on the other guys that were coming back. And you never discount the possibility of another year in the program.
Oh, yeah.
They all know the coach all knows them. And so as a result, you see development. And so Mekhi Nelson, I thought Isaiah Mozee looked really good in the game. I thought that was the best he's looked. And so he is going to push Nelson for that starting job. Jamal Rule obviously had some great moments, and I thought Quentin Ives had a really good moment in 4th and short, got 9 yards, darn near. It probably should have been a touchdown. He's got to break that leg tackle next time. But I thought those 4 guys looked pretty good, and Connor Booth didn't look half bad either. So they bet on themselves, and not only did they get it right, but they saved some money too.
Yeah.
Sam, it was a different kind of spring in terms of the hype, the cameras, the access, just Coach Rule kind of putting himself out there. What were your thoughts on just maybe the approach of spring? Like, turn the cameras off, let's get to work and not worry about winning the internet this offseason.
They dialed it back online. So some of this is not everybody watching this show is on Twitter or X, and not everybody's on Instagram, but they dialed all that back. And so that part was dialed back intentionally, I think. They want to try to fly under the radar. But then again, it was the basketball thing. Like, people are dialed into that team. You know, Matt Rule doesn't have to come out and say, look at me. Everybody's eyeballs will be back on Nebraska football when it's time in August, when the basketball program's not doing much. And so the time when it matters for Husker football is going to come. And I think he was comfortable being in a space where their spring camp coincided with this run from Husker Hoops. On top of that, I actually think he liked the early start. And he talked to us many times about it, this idea of we want to get the guys here, we want to get them going, and then after spring, we want to have a month with them to tweak their development program so that they go into the summer where we want them.
Sam, I know what you're saying. When August comes around, everybody will be on football again, right?
Right.
But there is a huge amount of apathy right now, and people are so frustrated. What's it going to take, you think, to win that part of the fan base now that already thinks this is already over? We don't know when it's going to actually officially end.
Right. I think skepticism is probably the word I would use. I don't know if apathy yet. I think they'll show up on.
Well, you would know, both you guys, you have a message board that you can look at. You've got a newspaper, so you know what they're reading, how much they're interested in it right now.
Yeah, the skepticism, I think, is there, and I think that's based on, A, the fact that the Dylan Raiola thing didn't quite work, and B, the last 3 games of the season, when they didn't look like they could have stopped anybody running the ball, and they really didn't stop Utah, Iowa, or Penn State. And so there's a skepticism there. I think that the optimism will build as they play 3 teams that they should beat pretty badly. And I know Ohio was pretty good last year. They're not going to be great this year. They lost a lot. They're not going to be great. North Dakota might be the best of those 3 teams, to be perfectly candid. And so I think that optimism will grow again. And how you win them back, I think everybody knows how you win them back. There's probably 4 or 5 teams on that schedule, right? Indiana, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, and Iowa. You win 2 of those, you're probably winning 8 and 9 games. And I think the fans are like, okay, now we're seeing it. Nebraska's got to beat somebody that they're not favored to beat. And that has not happened very many times in the last however many years, and that includes Matt Rule's tenure.
You look at that schedule, so 5-0 is legitimate. You can be favored in all 5 of those games. You got a game against Rutgers, even though it's at Rutgers. That could put you at 6. It's one of those other games you talked about that defines the season.
Correct. And you kind of think the Michigan State game's a toss-up, don't you, Sean?
I mean, I don't know that it's a toss-up because I do think they're going to have a complete rebuild there.
Yeah, it's a great coach. We know that.
But he's a great coach that struggled his last couple years.
Yeah, it's very true. And they're rebuilding and they're starting over. So
They'll probably be a 3-point favorite going.
Could be a Friday night game out there.
wait, 3, really? Oh, okay.
Nebraska.
Nebraska would be a 3-point favorite.
Okay,
could
I
be
think
a
like
Friday
6 or
night.
7. Actually.
That's possible.
Yeah.
They're going to play Notre Dame the week before, so we'll know a lot more about Michigan State than we'll know about Nebraska. But, I think Nebraska is probably going to be favored in 6.
Yep, 6 games.
I think maybe Washington, although I think Washington's really good, and then they'll be a dog in the other 5, including Illinois, which I think they'll be a dog there, and I don't know how good Illinois is going to be.
Right.
Sam, you brought up stopping the run. Obviously, that was non-existent most of last year. Those last 3 games. Orish comes in with the 4-2-5, the tweaks, obviously the necessary moves and the changes to fix that issue.
Right.
You've seen you guys were able to see some practices, stints here and there, but we saw on Saturday. What can you take away from what you've seen and what they're trying to accomplish with the portal guys? I know some guys didn't play, but really how they're going to try to attack that issue in 2026.
They still have work to do.
Yeah.
And we talked about this when I was on here in the fall. They don't have a lot of guys who look like you and Adam Carricker. They don't. I mean, they don't have that. They don't have 6'5", 275. They don't have Jared Crick or Sue. And so they've got to figure out a way to do this schematically, and then they have to get incredible effort. Now, Jasir Whittington, I think, has incredible effort, and that's part of why they got him. But how many guys did you have on the team that was Jasir's size? Probably Ola Daganduro. He was probably the only one.
Yep.
And he was really good. So Jasir's got to be that good and maybe even a little bit better, and then they need those edges. We didn't see Anthony Jones because he was on paternity leave. Congrats to him. But they need those edges to come and be really good. And those guys need to step forward. That's Cade Petchak. That's Williams. That's Lenhart. Those guys have to play really well. And that's the position you know well. And when Nebraska's defenses have been really good, they have not given up those big, long runs on the outside. And last year they gave up, 12 of them.
Sam, we saw a lot of tempo from the offense. Do you think this is something Dana Holgorsen wants to move towards? They did the whole let's play in the pocket with Dylan Raiola and let our tackles try to hold up, and it produced some of the worst sack games we've seen in maybe the history of the program. And it seems like they're open to kind of changing this up with a different approach.
I like that party. I do. I like the idea of running tempo. I think Dana can do it, obviously, as well as anybody. And I would.
Been a while.
It has been a while, but he knows how. And I would love to see Nebraska move at a quicker clip. I know it didn't always work under Scott Frost. I know. And he put the defense in some bad spots in his first 2 seasons, which we all remember. But I think you can move a little faster than they were last year.
Yeah.
And I think Calandria can give you the ability to do that. And I think they've got the quick passing game to get that done. And I think they've got a run game that'll work. I would love to see them run more tempo. It's going to expose the defense a little bit more, but there are games where I think you can do it. And remember, Scott's philosophy was always, let's get up 14-0, then let's get in a possession battle. I think this offense can get up 14-0 on some teams. They haven't done that very often in the Rule era, and they've got to do that this season.
Let's get your law degree working here. Your feel on the lawsuit for NIL and the way that's going to come about. Obviously, Nebraska's right in the middle of it.
That's a really good question. I don't know exactly how the arbitration's going to come out because we are in an environment where I don't want to use the word capricious, but we just don't know how judges and arbitrators are going to decide this. I think it makes logical sense that Nebraska will win its case and the CSC will have to go back and reimagine how they're executing some of their standards. But it's also possible that the arbitrator says no, and then this thing goes to court. And then I think maybe everybody up here on the panel thinks that a judge will look at that situation and go, yeah, Nebraska wins.
Yeah.
And so I don't know which situation is better for Nebraska. One's going to take longer than the other, but I think in the end, these kids will get their NIL money.
And people that don't know, this is using money from Play Fly and that kind of thing, which everybody else is kind of doing as well, right?
Everybody's doing this. I think for whatever reason, the way that Nebraska set it up, People are using the phrase warehousing. Think of it as a retainer. You sign someone's rights and they're like, down the road, we're going to use you in this, but we haven't necessarily made that menu out yet. Maybe Nebraska will have to make the menu and then they'll have to execute.
Sam, what I find interesting about the Playfly money is like you haven't really seen or felt like any of these deals public yet. Like, and maybe that's the case where we'll never know what these deals are. But if there's $9 million of multimedia marketing deals, I'm curious what these deals are and how they're going to be executed.
So one of the ways that I thought about it is that you were going to hear like extended interviews on their radio network.
Yeah, sure.
Where it'd be a half-hour sit down. It'd be insightful and maybe interesting.
A podcast even.
A podcast, and we just haven't seen that yet. Now, they have a podcast studio over there, so you would think they'd be able to execute this pretty easily, but I don't think that maybe they had the full menu laid out. Maybe here in the next 3 or 4 weeks they will.